Hey guys, how's everybody doing? This is Louis from DNA Garage. We've got our recently released ABS delete kit. We're going to show you guys how to do basically a do-it-yourself install. This will be available, through us. And this is something that when we were building the Bad Apple with Mickey and Ricky, we all three sat down and tried to figure out something that was going to be user-friendly, easy to install, and at the same time clean out the engine bay. This is what we came up with. This is what we call our street kit. Does not include a rear brake bias adjuster. Street cars really don't need it. It is, nice to have. It's just one of those things where it's something else you're gonna have to start adjusting and all that stuff. So it's really not recommended for a street car. If you're gonna do spirited driving, hard driving, track, canyons and all that, then it's probably a good idea to add that to our kit, which is basically an upgrade to it. And yeah, this is where we're at. We've got Danny's car here. We're gonna use it to install it. We're gonna try to do a step-by-step, kind of put some instructions together for you guys that are not, local or want to tackle on this tack on yourself. Then we should be good to go. Right now we're removing the hard line that joins the intake manifold with the brake booster. We're removing that so we can access the lines that we're going to pull out. Put one nut back onto the coilover or shock if you still have. That way when you raise the car up to remove the tires, the shock doesn't fall down. First step, if you happen to have either a suction pump or a what we call a turkey baster, is suck as much fluid as you can out of your brake master bottle. That way when you start removing lines, you don't get a lot of drip. Second thing is be very careful and cover pretty much everything where you're removing a line, because fluid is corrosive. Whatever it touches, if there's paint there or whatnot, it's going to eat it up. So now basically, as you can see, we've removed everything that's in the way. We removed the metal tube that goes from the brake booster to the intake manifold just to clear it out. The only thing on the pump is you do have to remove the front right brake line from up here to be able to pull the unit out. Don't worry about bending this line or whatnot, because this does get removed to run our kit as the kit that we have. We have the line running underneath the car just to make it a lot more cleaner. But this line will be, you will have to remove it to be able to yank the unit out. Once the unit is out, and all this is clear, we make sure there's no fluids or nothing coming down. Then at that point, we're gonna raise the car, remove the tires, remove the hard line going to the actual coilover and stainless steel line or whatever brake line's at the bottom. And then the next step would be adding our adapters and all that stuff to where everything goes there, which we'll show you, a little bit down the line. So what you gotta do is just hold it on here. I don't know if you can look on here. It's a 14. And then the top, it's good to get these kind of wrenches. That way you don't strip the brake line, the hard line. 14 to hold, just to hold the bracket, you don't bend it. And then this one is a line wrench, 10 millimeter, 14. Once you break it loose, you can pretty much just use your hand. I like to put a rag under here just because of the brake fluid. It gets all over the paint, trying to avoid that, because paint or the brake fluid will eat through anything on its way. Pretty much what I do is I just keep it loose. I know it's already loose, so I come back up here. I'm gonna remove these with the same wrench, which is a 10. And then the only reason we're removing it from there is just to make it an easier access, because the lines actually go straight to the brake master, so that the hyper valve that's there and all that gets removed, so to give it that clean look. and you don't have to worry about splitting lines and all that stuff. Our kit does everything for you. Another thing is, when you're removing the whole ABS pump unit, you can either do a couple bolts here that'll remove the pump itself. If you want to make things simple, you can remove the whole bracket, which basically it's one bolt here. And then you've got, if you look down in here, yeah, see the tip of the screwdriver, you got one bolt right here. And then also you have one in between the bracket, which is down here, right down in there. Once you get those 3 bolts out, the whole unit should pop up.
Shall we?
We have multiple. 660. We have the, you have to unplug the pump. You got your 2 big electrical connectors right here. But at the same time, you've got a 10mm bolt right here. That is a ground for the unit. That also needs to get removed before you pull the whole pump out. And that is it. So now we're removing the driver's side hard line. This hole here, it's just one of the slight modifications you're gonna have to do. You're gonna have to get a stepper bit, make it maybe 5% bigger, just because of the way we run our lines. We run 2 lines through it, just to clean, make it a clean look as possible. So once we get to that point, we'll show you, but just keep in mind, only on the driver's side, you have to make this hole bigger. One thing we did forget to mention is that our lines actually have a Kevlar insert in them. So I know there's going to be a lot of people that worry about, brake line expansion and all this, and the brake line being so long. If you really were to compare the longest line that we're using, it's actually a lot shorter than what the metal tube that's in their factory. Meaning, the metal tube, you've got to run a line from the master to the ABS unit and then back over to the driver's side, where this is only from the master to the passenger side, which is actually a lot shorter. And these lines are rated at 10,000 PSI before they even begin to expand or burst. I had to remove these lines first just to get, rid of the ABS and the long line. So now I come back and I take it off from the master. There's a bolt in the back, which is a 14, and one in the front. And then there's a 10 that holds this together right here. So once you remove those bolts, kind of maneuver it around here, and then you just take it out. We're no longer going to be using this. Alright, one thing you guys do need to remember on your brake master, the rear port is actually the front brakes. The front port is actually the rear brake. So once we start getting the the lines installed, we actually have a double banjo bolt that goes here, which is this one here. Oh, thanks Pancho, by the way. This here, and you are able to run both lines there. Which are basically front right, front left. The rear one's a shorter bolt, which in reality all should be the shorter line, which will install, route over through here, and go back down to your hard line that runs all the way to the back and controls your rear brakes. At the same time, don't forget to install your crush washers. so you can create a seal. So basically what you're going to do is you install one, you install the line, you install another crush washer, then you have your other line that you install, and at the end last you put your third washer, so it creates a seal between all the lines and the brake master, and then bolt it straight up to your brake master. Okay, since we've got everything removed now, next step is to install all your adapters. Basically, this one has got a big brake kit, which it came with already. It's you know, a standard stainless steel line, you know, bolts up to the adapter and whatnot. Unfortunately, this adapter is not the correct one for this car, so there's no way of putting your locking pin, which we'll end up finding a way to secure it. 90% of the time, the factory one should be locked in with a C-clip, which you don't have to remove. And you know, you grab your adapter and basically just screw it in, and you tighten it up till you get a real, you know, a complete seal, and then we'll show you the next step after that, running the line. Alright, so now we've got our adapters installed, and then we're going to start running our, you know, passenger side to driver side master line. And then we'll show you in a minute how we're going to route this. One other thing that is actually something that you actually need to request when you order your brake kit is if you've got a single turbo with an external dump for your wastegates, which we'll show you here. See where your exhaust is dumping out through here? We need to include a heat wrap. So basically, you know, you put this over the line. Then again, once you see the final installation, you'll kind of get an idea of where it goes. But that way, you know, it'll be something like this, and it blocks all the heat from here. One thing is, we do plan on extending this pipe, so this shouldn't be a big issue. But for now, this right here should protect it, and we shouldn't have any issue with it melting or you know, getting hot or whatnot. This here is just a temporary clamp, just to secure it while we're, you know, basically while we're running our line. It'll probably end up being on the top, because you know, most cars do have a cover under here. So this is just something that'll, you know, kind of hold the line in place for us, you know, and then we'll go from there. Once you fed the line over to this side, you know, kind of just get a general idea where it's going to go. You grab the end and you put this end through the hole, push it up, you know, be careful, don't just jam it in there. You don't know what you're going to hit on top. And then just kind of lay it over like this, and we're ready to run the other line. Okay, so the next step is you've got, there's 3 line sizes. So you run the longest one from passenger side, you know, underneath the car over to the driver's side. And then you grab the shortest one, which also, that'll go to the brake line on the front driver's side caliper, through the hole onto the master. One thing I did forget to mention is the hole, we actually drilled it to a 7/8 size hole, just in case you're wondering how big you have to go. You probably can go a little bit smaller, but that allows us more room for us to put a rubber grommet to keep it from cutting into the protective sleeve of the brake line. So now this is where we're at. We're at the point to where we're gonna start installing the front brake lines to the master. As you can see, Pancho over here, you've got the dual banjo bolt. So basically you lay the first copper washer on, you grab one of the lines. Really doesn't matter which way you put them. I always tend to keep in mind the direction of the lines, that way they don't look like they're crossed over or whatnot, and it gives you a cleaner look, you know, so that way they don't look all tangled up or whatnot. You install your second crush washer. Then at that point, you install the third line, or the second line. So you install your third washer, and then you line up your bolt, and then, you know, you slowly screw it in. Make sure, you know, that when you're screwing it in, it goes in smooth. You don't cross thread anything. If for any reason it doesn't, you know, give you 2-3 full turns, that means it's not aligned straight. One thing we do recommend is that you do not tighten the brake lines at the basically at the caliper, so you don't run into the issue where the line is too hard for you to be able to twist in a line. It just makes life a lot simpler. That way you don't have to struggle with the direction of the line or whatnot. But basically that's how it'll look once it's installed. You can see clean look, nothing up here on top. And yeah, we're on to the next step. We're pretty much done installing the front. Now we're gonna move on to the rear brakes. There's also another adapter that comes in where if you look down there by the firewall where you removed your rear brake line, you're gonna screw that adapter onto the other piece that's there, and that'll give you access so you're able to run the line. Yeah, and also make sure, you know, the chamfered part goes facing up, and the double flared, you know, reverse union goes into the line, so it'll be able to seal. All right, so basically we're running the last line left, which is the medium length line. We're gonna go ahead and install it onto the brake master first. Once it's on there, then we'll route it and run it to the adapter that we just installed for the rear lines. So remember, front is the short bolt, which is, you know, goes to the rear brakes. Install one crush washer, install the line, install your second crush washer, and, you know, be very gentle and screw it into your brake master. Either facing down towards the ground, then, you know, at that point, or you can do it like that also, loop it, and that way it gives you an easier access for you to go ahead and screw it into the master. Once it's screwed in, then you're able to move it and rotate it whichever direction you want, and you should be good to go after that. And as you can see, that line is, you know, goes down through the back of the brake booster. We'll end up securing it also, maybe with some zip ties or whatnot. But that's about the only line that can be has to be exposed. We tried running it through the bottom, but because of the steering column and all that, it just makes it a little bit more difficult and tricky to hold down and keep out of the way. So we just chose to do it the simpler way, just go straight up through the top. All right, so as you can see here, this car does not have the under tray shield here because of the custom downpipe and you know, a couple of other stuff that gets in the way. So we decided to use the factory mounting holes for these clamps that are secured in place. And then just to give it that extra little support, we actually grabbed a dowel clamp and used a self tapper to just drill straight into the subframe. That way it's secure, it keeps it away from the exhaust, and should be good to go. So basically, once you get everything installed, you know, you fill your system up with brake fluid, give it a couple pumps, make sure you ain't got no leaks anywhere. And usually the best way of doing it is start from the farthest tire from the brake master, which would be rear passenger side. Bleed that one, get some fluid out there. Might take you a couple times to get the fluid back there. Once you have fluid back there, basically bleed it till you see no air. Switch over to rear driver side. Get that done. At that point, there's a possibility you might need brake fluid. Double check your brake master, make sure it's topped off. Once you get to that point, then you do front right. Get that going. Same thing, you repeat the process. You switch over to you know, driver side front. At that point, check fluid again. I usually like to go around, you know, maybe 2-3 times, depending on how the system looks. When you're running bigger calipers, make sure you always bleed the inside of the front calipers, get the fluid out, and then start doing the rest of your bleeding from the outside. Stock ones only, you've got one bleeder, So, you know, you go from the inside, get all the air out of that. And like I said, I like doing 2-3, you know, times around. Make sure there's 100% no air in there, and you should be good to go. All right, you guys, so final installment, we're done. You know, just like everything else, what you take out first, you end up putting last.